Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. This is FPL Insight. I'm Gianni. I'm joined by Football Insider, Mr. Dean Jones, transfer expert, Mr. Dean Jones. Dean, I'm looking forward to hearing some transfer stories later in tonight's show, as well as showing our teams and looking at bonus points. We got a packed show and loads of regulars ready for the next hour. Very excited.
Yeah, what a mad day. It'd been reasonably quiet today, and then suddenly out of the blue, Chelsea going to sign João Felix. So we are going to talk about that properly later on in the show and evaluate where we're at with that. But I mean, it is a bolt out of the blue, but it's not really, because although Arsenal, Man United were always most heavily linked with João Felix and had been most heavy in talks up to that point before the weekend, you always got the feeling that if Chelsea really were looking at Mudryk, if they were looking at Marcus Thuram, if they were you're looking long term at Rafael Leao and stuff like that, you're thinking, well, then surely this guy who right here readily available is appealing to you, and you don't seem to have any problem spending money on anyone. So this loan deal, this loan fee really shouldn't seem that much of an issue. And here we are. Chelsea, it looks like, are going to pay it. But yeah, stick with us, because later in the show, we're going to rate 3 big transfer rumours right now. And of course, that's one of them.
Yeah, and no doubt we'll be answering your questions about transfers as well, guys, because I know loads of you want to tap into Dean's knowledge and insight with potential moves that could happen between now and the window closing. Is the window open? Is it always just January? Is it January? Is it to the end of the month? When does the window close?
Yeah, right at the end of the month. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Loads of good comments in the chat already. A few saying they got red arrows. Unfortunately, that there is still a game to go in this game week. Dean will be there. Fulham take on Chelsea. A few mentioning me in the hat. I know it's cold in my house today, so I'm going for it. We should probably touch on the game week that we're currently in. Mitrovic, Dean, we haven't spoken because you weren't around on Friday night, so we had Salah with us. But Mitrovic was obviously a brilliant, heavily backed captainer from the FPL community. The vast majority seemed to go Mitro. A lot went Haaland. 6 million did go Haaland out of the 11 million in the game, but engaged managers seem to go a lot of them on Mitro. So I was delighted, because I didn't go with either of them. I was delighted to see Mitrovic get yellow carded, but took quite a lot of flack on Twitter for celebrating that yellow card. But it was just bubbling that game. He could have got booked a couple of times, and the yellow card did seem soft when you look at it just in isolation, but actually it wasn't soft at all if you look at the accumulation of him being in the ref's face. But as Fulham go to take on Chelsea at Craven Cottage, without Mitro, you're still a little bit confident, I guess, because the way Chelsea play, Fulham are probably bookies' favourites.
I don't know if we're favourites, but
actually,
Fulham really don't beat Chelsea very often. I mean, I think we talked to it before. It was a long, long time ago since Fulham beat Chelsea. It was 1-0 at Craven Cottage, and Boa Morte scored, I think. So it was a long time ago. There's obviously hope here, because Chelsea have been a mess. From a Fulham point of view, just hope João Felix isn't registered in time, so it doesn't give them a bit of a new lease of life. I mean, look, that Chelsea team that was on the pitch against Man City, I'd say that's one of the worst Chelsea lineups I've seen on the pitch for a proper game in 20 years. I thought that was an absolute shambles of a lineup. It was all over the place. You've got players of all different fits from all different moments of Chelsea's builds and rebuilds and youth generations and all the different visions that they've had over the last few years. And of course, you look at that as a Fulham fan, and you're reasonably optimistic. The one thing I guess that Fulham will look at here is being aggressive in the middle of the park, and that's where they'll try to get this game won. Having no Mitro, it's not ideal. Mitrovic is the star man, the main goal scorer. I didn't captain him in fantasy. I captained Haaland, but to be honest, I'd still be reasonably happy if I'd have captained Mitro. I mean, he got more points than Haaland in this game week. He's still got 5 points, so he's going to get more points with Haaland anyway. You captain Havertz. What's he on for?
He's on 2 to 4. So I need him to play more than 60 to get another 2, and then
He
I'm
might not.
still.
He might
Well,
not.
yeah, he might not. He might not start. I mean, the only
he's
reason I
terrible.
think he'll start is Chelsea's injuries. He's one of
Yeah.
the fit ones, but he did go off at half time because he was. I think he was hooked because he was hooked, but you never know. There could be a knock there. And if Havertz is injured or Havertz doesn't get 60 minutes, I am going to get it on FPL Twitter, and I'm
You
there
are,
for it.
yeah. You got to embrace that battle because you started it. But look, Havertz. You don't know what you're going to get from him at the moment. I mean, maybe he goes into this game. It feels like Chelsea are going to look for a reaction in this game. It's going to be a big atmosphere at Craven Cottage on Thursday. A big game for both teams because obviously, like Fulham smell blood here. Like this is a chance to kill the rival, kill the neighbour, and the guys down the road. And at a moment when you're actually having a better season than them, but at the same time, it's Chelsea, and Chelsea always have something up their sleeve, and obviously have the ability to win basically any match. So it's a really, really intriguing fixture, and a lot of people in the FPL community obviously got an eye on it because of our assets. I've got Andreas Pereira too. Obviously, he came off in that Leicester game, which was
pre-60. That's not like him. If he usually
really
comes off at like 70, 80, doesn't he?
I bet a few captained him as well.
Yeah, I saw a few. I must admit, I was between Andreas and Havertz. I was going for one of them. I decided 2 minutes for the deadline. I was like, it's one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, you've just about. I mean, ultimately, it's not really going to matter this game week. That the points that people are racking up just isn't going to make any difference to your season. It's turned out, so it doesn't. None of this really matters. But it's obviously fun, and then we've got big decisions to make once we get to the end of this week on our team selections going forward because there's a lot to consider at the moment.
Yeah, with that in mind, we should have a look at our teams because we'll loosely tell you what we're thinking we're doing ahead of game week 20. We'll show you what we're thinking with transfers, but we'll also let you know what we're thinking with some of the chips and triple captain chip and Haaland. This might just be the week, guys. So coming up next, we've got Pimp My Team.
Yeah, they are the Walton Rifles. Clap them on as they walk out. It's been a terrible game week for the lads. A lot of red arrows for me too. There really hasn't been a lot to get excited about at the moment. But yeah, looking forward. First of all, actually, after all the peer pressure that you lot have put on me in this chat room to get Mitrovic into my team, I despise all of you at the moment because I caved into the peer pressure. Something I should be over by this stage of life. But I'm like a boy in the playground here, and I've caved in. I got him in, and I wish I hadn't. I'm getting him back out as soon as possible because I don't want this crossover between my love for Mitrovic and it having an impact on my FPL team if he doesn't do well. So he's going to be going. And that's that. I've decided Mitrovic is going. It's like really shouldn't be the priority, but it's affecting my mental health. So he's going. I've obviously got Maddison there on the bench too. I mean, I've got a lot of money to play with here. I've got
loaded, mate.
Got 3.6 in the bank,
and you've got 2 transfers, which is a real treat.
2 transfers. I've got a 7 million Mitro and an 8 million Maddison that I want to move on. So yeah, I'm loaded at the moment. I've got loads of options available to me. Haven't weighed it up properly yet, but obviously, yeah, with the 2 doubles this week and looking at the 2 Manchester clubs, I imagine that's where my focus is going to be turning.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have Rashford, and we know why. You went Martial. It was a difficult call. You only wanted one of them, but the double up definitely looks on. Knowing United have a double, which includes Crystal Palace. The way Crystal Palace are defending at the moment, they look like, go big on United in that fixture. But also, there is a good chance that Man United will get a double. I think it's game week 22 or 23, and it would mean it's Palace and Leeds. So that would be an amazing double if that happens. And again, we will know that in the next, hopefully we'll know that before game week 20, but there's a chance we'll get another United double just around.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because I was a little bit put off of Rashford because looking at it, I was like, well, he's got his next 3 games, 2 of them are Man City at home and Arsenal away. So what realistically am I looking for, even from an informed Rashford? But knowing that that's around the corner too, that probably does change things. And I mean, Rashford is one of the most informed players around right now. More important to have than Martial, obviously, too. So that will be something definitely to consider. CH, it was a well-intentioned peer pressure thing. I know it was, but it was still peer pressure that I should have ignored. But yeah, Salah to Rashford. This was the other point I was going to make. It keeps evading me, and I keep forgetting to talk about it. Like Salah, I mean, I make fun of you all the time for still having Darwin Núñez. Why have I still got Salah? I don't know.
I'd be selling Salah before Darwin, and I see comments in the chat saying, "Would I sell Salah?" Genuinely, given the choice, I'd sell Salah before Darwin purely because Salah to KDB feels like such an obvious transfer. City double next week. They also have a double again in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Salah's not getting all the big chances because Darwin's getting them. Whether it's good or bad for Liverpool that he gets them, he just does. But you've got enough money in the bank to go Maddison to Rashford, and then you could turn Mitrovic into any player you want. You could go Mitro to Kane. And I know Kane's always been really good for you.
He has been good for me, and I was it before this game week that I said don't get Kane?
We both did.
Obviously, next up for them is Arsenal. Kane likes playing against Arsenal. Massive fixture. Obviously, they've got a double header too. It's a tough one. Obviously, Arsenal Man City is a really tough pit, but I do think that I need to get him back. That is probably where I'm heading. Getting as I say, if I do go for Maddison out and Mitro, I mean, there's an argument here that I could get Salah out and Mitro out this week. If Salah's not in my plans, he's got Brighton away, not expecting massive things from him there. And looking at that midfield, like what realistically am I going to play? I guess the one thing I'd have is I probably don't want Andreas to start the game, which is probably why I will end up going for Rashford and bringing him straight into the starting lineup in place of Pereira. But just giving up on Fulham for the time being. But yeah, I think it is going to be Kane that needs to come back for me. I mean, he's just a machine. The way he took his goal too, it's good to see, to be honest. I'm pleased to see that his mentality is this strong. I'm pleased to see the response. I mean, look, the performance generally from Tottenham, I didn't think was a great one. The first half was poor, but someone just said Kane is a knee-jerk. Well, Kane's not a knee-jerk, actually. Like, Kane is... He's not a knee-jerk. He's one of the best players in the world.
And he's such a consistent FPL performer this season. Such unbelievable points. He ticks along with your 9s and 10 pointers very often.
He has been. And I think I was pointing out before, like his, maybe it's his away record or something like that. But I was obviously looking for reasons to be down on Harry Kane, especially as I just ditched him. But I'm going to hold my hands up. I'm going to be like, no, I'm making a mistake here. I can't go forward with this lineup. Like, I think back to where my team was and the attack I had. I can't remember who I had now. I had Kane, Haaland. I had another strong one too. Can't remember off the top of my head who it was, but I was like, I had a real strong attack. And now I'm looking at it and it's like Haaland, Mitrovic and Martial. I'm not happy with it, to be honest. Really should be Martial that goes, but it won't be. So yeah, Harry Kane's coming back.
I like that. And if you do go Mitro, Kane, Maddison, Rashford, you could still go, do I take a 4-point hit to get Salah out for KDB? And that is a question I think so many Salah owners in the chat will be asking themselves. Do you take a 4-point hit for KDB? And my simple answer to that is yeah, I would, because KDB has 2 doubles in the next 5 game weeks. At the moment, Salah has none. If we got news of a Liverpool double game week in a couple of weeks, maybe I'd question that. But for the time being, knowing what we know, the information we have, I'd go big on KDB over Salah. And when you look at the expected goal involvement since the World Cup, and we give Darwin a lot of stick for underperforming, he's massively underperforming his XGI, his expected goal involvement, his goals and his assists. He underperforms. Well, Kevin De Bruyne, after Darwin, is the second highest for falling behind his data, for being really poor against his expected data. But we know that is short-term with Kevin De Bruyne. We don't know if it's short-term with Darwin. He might be a player that always underperforms his XG. Well, at the moment, KDB is massively underperforming his XG. What does that show us? Well, it shows us he's getting tons of chances. And perhaps he's been a bit unfortunate because the expected goal involvement from assists, which KDB relies on, well, you're still relying on another player to score the goal. KDB's doing his bit. He's creating those big chances. Someone else isn't putting them away. And we did see Haaland was a bit out of touch come game week 18, 19. So I think KDB's an easy buy.
Yeah, I'm not ditching Haaland. Kane, Someone just said before about his XG. Rahul, am not interested in XG. Not sure how many times you've been on the show. I'm not a fan.
I'm the XG man.
Yeah, he's the XG man. I'm definitely not. What I'm looking at is how many points he's got so far this season. And the only forward that's got more than him is Haaland. So for me, that's good enough. And that is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for points delivered. And Harry Kane, for most of this season, has delivered me points. So I've written him an apology and said he will be back in my team very, very soon.
And Rahul, Kane will always underperform or overperform his XG because he's simply an elite finisher. So when his XG is low, it shouldn't bother you too much. He always overperforms it. He scores goals from 0.1, 0.2 shots fairly often. And that second goal against Palace, I don't think it's been really I haven't seen a huge amount of press around, but that touch and finish in the bottom corner, he hits it so early that I don't think there's a striker in world football that takes that shot on that early with that finish. And as good as Haaland is, I still put Kane slightly ahead of Haaland for just pure finishing. I'd pick Haaland in my team over Kane because he's X factor in so many ways, but finishing, I don't think there's any better than Kane.
Yeah, no, I like it. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say Kane's better than Haaland. I'm not going to go that far, but I understand what you're saying there in terms of the type of finishes that he takes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Let's have a look at my team, early thoughts, and we'll show you our teams on Friday's show, guys. Friday, we are going to do, and if you're new around here, Mondays and Fridays at 7 p.m. is our normal streaming time. Friday, there's a game on at 8. The deadline's 6:30. So at 5 p.m. UK time on Friday, we will be hosting our second ever deadline stream. So make sure you're joining us for that. Note for the diary, 5 p.m. on Friday. How much will my team change from this? A little bit, because I'm definitely going to be using my 2 transfers. I might even take a hit because I do feel like now is the time you can get away with hits because of the doubles. If you're hitting in a player playing twice, you already get those 2 appearance points over a single game week player. And if you know they've got a double game week in the next 4 or 5 weeks, like City or Arsenal, or just City, but Arsenal are likely to as well, then I don't mind it too much. So my plans, I'm selling Cancelo. I've got to sell Cancelo. What a poor buy he's been. I don't think he'll start both those football matches. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts one. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts none. But if he started both, I'd be very, very surprised, knowing he didn't start in the FA Cup yesterday. And that was his chance to get some minutes under his belt. So look, Rico Lewis is 3.9 million. I feel like that's a little bit high risk, but probably starts one of the 2, maybe both. Yeah. Pep seems to love him. John Stones is around 5.4. And from all the City defenders, I'd say Stones is probably the safest in terms of 2 starts. So Cancelo to Stones works if I go Darwin to Kane. However, I want to keep Darwin, and Dean knows why, and you guys all know why. I'm back in the expected data there, and it was good to see him score a really good goal in the FA Cup. And now he's got one. Just wonder if he's one of those forwards which goes on those hot streaks. Give him more and more chances.
You hope.
But I can turn Havertz into Kane, which sounds bloody amazing. So Havertz to Kane, if Cancelo goes down to a 4.4. So that 4.4 million defender, well, Botman is 4.4. My only issue is by the time I make these moves, and I don't want to make them until we know more about doubles, and probably won't make them till Friday, there'll be a price change. And I think Botman might be 4.5 by then. And I think Kane might also be going up in value. So that's really frustrating. I'll probably have to go to a 4.3 million defender or lower, which leaves me with Rico Lewis as a genuine option. So Harry Kane is due to go up in value tonight. And Botman is also due to go up in value tonight. However, the forecasters said this last night and neither did. So maybe I can still make those moves, but I have to wait. I just have to wait a couple more days till I make my transfers because of double game week announcements. But what do you think to Rico Lewis, Dean? Is he a genuine option if I'm selling Cancelo?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Pep talks about him so highly. He's given him a lot of responsibility in the team. He played Cancelo out of position the other day and apologised to him. I think we'll be seeing a lot of him. I really do. I think there are a couple of players around at the moment that are emerging that are in that lower bracket. I put... there's a couple of people to look out for, I think, in that sense. And Evan Ferguson, in terms of a forward at Brighton, Brighton, is somebody I also think we should be looking out for. If you wanted a cheap forward option, it is the same way I think Rico Lewis is going to be getting enough game time at City. I'd say he is one to look out for in terms of getting minutes at 4.5 million. He's 0.7% owned. He obviously got like 70 minutes against Everton, played really well. He played over an hour at the weekend. He looks like he's going to be getting plenty of minutes. He's a proper player. They really, really rate him. And I think they've got Liverpool next, which isn't ideal. But after that, Brighton have got a really nice run of games.
Yeah,
so
Leicester, Bournemouth, Palace, Fulham.
Yeah,
so good.
I just that was one I've been meaning to mention tonight. Just that I've got my eye on. If I was to turn to someone cheap in attack at any point, I think he'd probably be the one I'd be looking at.
Yeah, I like that. And there's a good chance we get an announcement on Brighton with a double before game week 20. The other one, if you're looking at Brighton attack, as I am, is Matoma, 4.9. So if you want to cover Brighton attack, Matoma and Ferguson, they're both like under 1% owned.
Yeah.
I think Matoma was. He's now, still 0.7% and 4.9. Andreas to Matoma looks like a move that I think I might make. Or if you need to even go Almiron down, I don't think that's a bad move. And they play Liverpool this week. Liverpool can see tons of chances, especially with Van Dijk out. I think Liverpool right at the bottom of, again, expected chat, right at the bottom of the expected, right at the top of the expected goals conceded this season. They've been really poor. So, back to my moves. Cancelo down to possibly Lewis, possibly Botman.
Yep.
And then Havertz to Kane. And then if I wanted to take a hit, which I don't think I would this week, I don't think I will need to, Andreas to Matoma is an option if I went Lewis. And then how I'd play that fifth midfielder, because Andreas is perfect, right? Because he's a player that at 4.5 million, you don't want money on your bench. But with some of the fixtures, if Andreas was Matoma, I think I'd play Matoma 1 week and Almiron the next based on fixture. And Almiron has been brilliant, but I don't think that's going to continue perhaps in the same way it was at the start of the season. So whilst I still expect Almiron to be a good FPL asset and someone you want in your squad, I don't think he's going to quite produce. And I don't think Newcastle attack is going to produce the points we saw at the start of the season. I think Newcastle defence will continue to be elite, but the Newcastle attack, they've just had 2 blanks. They've had 2 0-0s, I think. Yeah. So again, I'm a little bit skeptical over investing too heavily in that Newcastle attack, which is why for those looking at Callum Wilson, I much prefer Almiron because it's just so much cheaper.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. There was one message there from Daniel saying Welbeck is back. I don't know why so many people put Ferguson. I mean, so many people aren't putting Ferguson in, that's for sure. We just said 0.7%. But at 4.5 million for a reserve striker that you can even have on your bench and that is going to be getting decent game time going forward, I think that's more what we're looking at there. We're not looking at someone we're looking to have in our 11. It's more as a cheap option to make space elsewhere.
Yeah, that's the thing. Don't see midfield and forwards as midfield and forwards because we're all playing a back 3. See it as who is your 8th attacker, whether that's an Andreas Pereira at 4.5 or a Ferguson at 4.5. It's your 8th attacker, which is usually your first sub. And I think, Ferguson's brilliant buy. And I think he'll get goals. And look, De Zerbi is a manager that will back the kids. He's also a manager that will always play attacking football. You know, with a Matoma or a Ferguson, you're investing in a team with goals. Dean, before we answer a couple of questions and also chat transfers coming up, very excited for that. We should give a nod to captaincy this week. We're both going to be captaining Haaland in a double game week. If you buy Rashford, would you consider Rashford knowing he plays City and then Palace with his form? Or is Haaland or even Harry Kane with a double? For me, I'm definitely going Haaland. The question I've got for you is, are you going Haaland? But do you consider triple captain? It's not the best double.
It's not the best double, no.
You know, there's no Champions League around. You know, he's just been rested in the Cup. He'll play 180 minutes, which we might not be able to guarantee later in the year.
True. I mean, look, if Rashford, if this was a bit later in the season and I was looking to make up some room, like to save my season or to achieve a rank that I might not be able to get anywhere otherwise, then I might be willing to take that gamble and put Rashford ahead of Haaland. As it is, I just need to stay relevant for a while longer, and I do not want to lose. I do not want to lose out here and see people storm ahead of me because I was stupid about Haaland. Yeah. Obviously, there is potential to triple captain Haaland, but they have got that other double coming up, haven't they? Is it Villa? I'm just trying to get on my phone. Is it Villa and Arsenal?
Yeah, it might be. I think it's game. Is it 23 off the top of my head?
Yeah, 23. Villa at home. I mean, I've just got my eye on that. We don't know what Aston Villa will be getting then. It will be after the transfer window is closed, so maybe there'll be a stronger unit by then. But, I mean, this is a Villa team that just got beaten by Stevenage. I'd like to hold on to that just in case Villa are in a bad place for that fixture. Yeah. Because to know that Haaland is playing against Aston Villa at home, he can eat them up. And then he's got like this huge game in the title race, go into Arsenal, and he'll be wanting to be the guy that makes the difference. I think I'd rather have him for those two. So I think I'm going to let it ride.
Oh, guys in the chat, let us know. And it is worth noting, Harry Kane does have one more game where he could accumulate 5 yellows for a suspension, like we saw with Mitrovic. So for those looking at Kane in the double game week, if he gets a yellow in game 1, he'll be out of game 2, just like Mitro. After the double game week, Kane's suspension for 5 yellows is wiped. We start again, or we carry on, and I think it's 10 is the next threshold.
Yeah.
So Kane probably isn't a captain option if you've got Haaland as well, but I think some will go there. Triple captain, guys. Who in the chat is looking at triple captain this week? I'm going to assume everyone's captain in Haaland. Just let us know in the chat, TC or no TC. Really keen to see, because I genuinely think the community is going to be split on this. I think a ton, despite the fixtures, and I include myself in this. I might go there.
Really?
I'm probably 49% likely to. I'm 49-51.
Oh, yeah.
The reason I'm going is, or could go, is the fixture spread is great. I think it's a Sunday, Thursday. So there's loads of rest time, or enough rest time. No, sorry, it's a Saturday, Thursday. Just looking now. Yeah, Saturday, Thursday. So that's really good. Later in the season, it's likely you get a lot of Saturday, Wednesday, or Sunday, Thursday. So it's an extra day recovery. And number 2 is it's the Champions League factor. No champs around where you might rest him ahead of a semi-final or a quarter-final in the Premier League. And 2, it's the fact that the title is still in reach because Arsenal dropped points last time out. If we triple captain Haaland in May, let's go March. Let's say March. Champions League, and potentially Arsenal are 12 points clear. And you just think, oh, is Pep going to go? Alvarez get some minutes, save him for the champs. So they're the reasons for. The reasons against are pretty clear. United now have got a good defence, and United Spurs, 2 really tricky games.
Yeah, it's true. I also think, though, that there is an argument to be had with Haaland that you can triple captain him in game weeks where it's not a double. I think he's one of the few players where you could actually just be like, oh, if you found out that by the time they're playing Wolves next week or whatever, that Wolves have suddenly got a problem at the back, whatever it is, it'd be like, you might be tempted to just do that, because like you're just looking for a game where he's going to bang a hat trick. That's all you really need. And there's as much chance of that as there is over the course of those 2 other games. So I do feel like he's a bit of a special case. It's back to those old Aguero days. It always reminds me of this, of when everyone had Aguero. It was just going to be a case of like, when are you putting him on triple captaincy? Is it going to be the week he scores 5 or not? And it's basically decides who's going to win all your mini leagues and stuff.
There's been 3 weeks this season, Dean. He's had a 17, a 17, and a 23. Single game weeks, he has produced a 17, a 17, and a 23. You would be very happy. He's not going to get... I don't think next week, if we triple captain him, we're going to get more than 17, or we're not going to get a 23. Maybe I'm wrong.
Is it,
maybe
we
it? Do.
I know that's what I mean. Like, so would you rather triple captain him against Man United and Tottenham, or just Wolves at home? Probably Wolves at home.
Bournemouth at home, I'll take.
Yeah, Bournemouth at home. Yeah, Wolves are actually quite good now, so maybe not that one.
Guys, thank you so much for your support. It was awesome to see just before we came on. From our last stream, I think we just reached the 4K subscribers.
Yeah,
so
nice.
We're delighted with that. If you want to continue supporting us, please do hit that subscribe button. And where is CH for my call out for likes? CH, I haven't seen anything in the chat, mate. Come on.
Yeah, come on,
Let's
mate.
get some likes in.
Nifty game up. He's too busy typing about other stuff on it. But yeah, thanks.
Enjoying the show, CH. No. Your role in this show. Come on, it's calling out for likes and subscribes. But it's great as always to see you in the chat, and so many other familiar faces that have helped us get to 4K by sharing our messages. Luke and Coleman, Tim, Joe. Good to see you there, and Eddie. Thank you so much, Vindy, for your support, and Steve and Leo, FPL Marshall and Tiffany. Loads of you. Sorry, I can't call you all out. Punters with us tonight, and Amar and Tom. So many of you for the amazing support. And CH says sorry for dropping the ball with some lol emojis. We should answer a couple of questions before we do transfers, Dean. I know everyone is waiting for transfers, so keep your transfers questions off for a minute, because we're going to have a lengthy transfers section as well as a bonus point section. But we've got about 2 minutes to answer a couple of quick fire ones. if you want to ask, do feel free. I'll take the first one on Cancelo. It's not just Pep. It's worth noting with Cancelo, for Portugal, Dalot got the nod in the second half of the tournament. Got to the knockouts, and they went, Dalot over Cancelo. No one saw that one coming. He is clearly going through something, or just poor form, but something's not right there. We also saw Pep go, I don't want to play him at fullback. I'm going to play him on a right of a front three, which was crazy. He is pretty set. He feels set with Walker at right back or Lewis. And then at left back, it feels like Ake it's his space to lose. And then even then, in the FA Cup, at left back, Ake doesn't play. Does Cancelo come in? No. He comes on as a sub. So I do think he's an easy sell. Prioritise United or a City defender. I'd probably still go Stones for safety.
Yeah.
Or Shaw, if you don't have Shaw, definitely Shaw. But I assume
Shaw's a great, yeah. FPL Greenback literally says that Shaw or Dalot. I mean, that's quite a tough question, to be fair. I'd probably take Shaw right now, but that's just because he's been in the team. Dalot obviously coming back now. So I honestly don't think that there's going to be that much difference between those two going forward. So just take your pick, really. I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, exactly that. Downgrade James to Botman. Don't mind that at all. Burn to Fun Kane. Botman. Yeah, Fun Kane. I assume, John, you're looking at Darwin to Kane, as I think a lot will. And look, that's a move I'm comfortable with. And I was looking at myself. I'm just going to go Havertz to Kane because Havertz is even worse than Darwin at the moment. Salah to KDB or Darwin to Kane? What do you reckon, Dean?
I mean,
both. Take a 4-point hit.
Yeah, honestly, like if you can get both of those just switched over, then just do that. Like, just genuinely, I think that's quite an easy one. Like, do not worry about 4 points for something like that. I wouldn't personally.
Yeah, guys, I'm so pumped. Coming up next, we've got a bonus points feature that I'm going to throw to because it's loads of fun. It's new on Chasing Green Arrows. We're going to do this on all of our Monday streams. Remember, Mondays, Fridays at 7 are our usual time slots. Make sure you're subscribing and liking the channel. But next up, we've got a bonus points feature in Tips and Chips. Here we go. So we're going to pick out a few fixtures of the game week just gone every Monday, right? A little bit different this weekend because we haven't just had Premier League football. So we're looking back at the game week we're still in. And I'm just going to pick out a few key fixtures where it's worth noting who got the bonus and why. Because these are players on my watch list, right? So Gnonto, he's 5 million. He's a forward. It's a shame he's listed as a forward because you'd expect him to be listed as a midfielder. And I think next season he will be. But Leeds are a team that I like. And when they get doubles, I'm not saying we're going to go and put Gnonto or Somerville in our teams now. But when they get doubles, I think we'll be punting on Leeds because they're a team I back to score goals. And Gnonto is getting the minutes. He really is getting the minutes. It took him a while to get the minutes, but now he looks like a player that probably won't be at Leeds for too long. Like he's
so good, isn't he? Like, and Captaincy Somerville. I love both of them. Like as players, like I find them really exciting as potential assets in FPL. When we were, at unlimited transfers, I was looking at Somerville because he was cheap, and I thought, like what he'd done just before the break, I really like that. Yeah. But Gnonto is obviously the one that you would pick ahead of him. He's so good, and I feel like it was given time to find his feet in the league, in the country, and now he's starting to unleash it. As you say, it's just a shame he's listed as he is, but this is a really, really good one to look out for.
Yeah, his XG was decent, 0.49. Worth noting, Scamacca at 30. That's two Italian lads. This could be genuinely, Gnonto and Scamacca could be the front two for Italy very soon. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see them both starting with Chiesa, for example. So, yeah, worth noting, if David Moyes leaves West Ham, I'll be looking at West Ham assets because depending on the manager that comes in. And I do think both those that featured there, Paqueta and Scamacca, both could be good options. We're going to park West Ham for a while. So, yeah, there we go. That's the first of 4 fixtures we're going to...
People don't seem to like Gnonto in the comments.
I'm really surprised at that. I think perhaps it's a little bit for some, I think it's probably a bit naive that they only watched Premier League football and don't know who he is. And now you're realizing who he is, but go, oh, it's just a random. But please don't make them that mistake, and bear in mind that when Leeds got him, loads of the Italian clubs wanted him, including Juventus. He has already been capped by Italy a couple of times. This is the European champions we're talking about that have put him in their 11. So I'd be just put him on your watch list. That's all I'm saying. Watch him carefully. He's a really good player.
Mark said he likes him, but he's managed by Jesse Marsh. I think that's harsh.
Marsh gets the worst press, mate, and I don't get it.
Harsh.
Well, I do get it. People don't like his accent. That's all it is.
Honestly, like this team has goal potential all the time, and like they play exciting. They never stop playing. They're always trying to. They keep going to the end. They often do get goals at the end. Like I find it strange. I think that players like this are the ones that can make the difference. It's really strange that people aren't enjoying this.
Yeah. Look, don't expect on this channel on Chasing Green Arrows for us to list the 5 to be talking about Haaland, Salah and KDB every week, right? You don't need to be told about these players. We're not going to spoon feed you with template picks. That's just not my style, and it's certainly not Dean's. And I know you like that about the channel, guys. So we're going to continue. Look, at times we're going to be talking about, Trippier or Almiron, but at times we're also going to pluck out some players you perhaps don't know a huge amount about. So let's move on to our next one. Again, the bonus points, just picking out some fixtures here. I wanted to touch on Harry Kane. He got the 3 bonus, and forwards, get bonus when they score goals. If you want to know more about how the bonus point system works, 32 metrics. Dean and I did a show about it. Just search on YouTube, Chasing Green Arrows bonus, and you'll see our bonus pod. We went through all 32 metrics, but pretty much if you're a forward and you score a brace, you're guaranteed 3 bonus. And that's what Harry Kane did. Again, you can see an example there, massively overperforming his XG, but loads of touches. He can get those big chances as well, which add to the bonus. Doherty with 2 and Perisic with 1. Again, like when Spurs defense keep a clean sheet, the wing backs clock up such good BPS because of key passes and crosses, as well as all the defensive stuff they get, clearances and interceptions and tackles. So going into the double, would I look at anyone at Tottenham other than Kane? I don't think so. But if you do want to go to a defender, Doherty is nailed at the moment and he's super cheap. I just don't think Spurs will keep a clean sheet in the double. It's 2 tricky games. But they did against Palace, although they were probably quite fortunate. Doherty's price, I'm just looking because I am interested myself. Yeah, it's 4.6. 0.7% owned. Well, Perisic is 5.5. But Harry Kane, I think, is going to be mass owned. I think most will sell Darwin to Kane. Those like Dean and myself that can sell a Mitrovic or a Havertz to Kane, I think we'll still be making those moves. Some might even get Kane by taking hits, and I still think I like that. He always scores against Arsenal, and at Man City he'll get chances because Man City defense, it's still very, very good. It's the best in the league, but I always still fancy Spurs on the counter with Kane and Son to get a goal against Man City, and they often do quite well against them. So
yeah, there was that big win that they got over Man City, and obviously Kane enjoyed that one. So I think he's still got that little bit inside of him where he should have joined Man City in that transfer window. So he's still got that between his teeth to keep him going.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the next one. We've done Nonto, a differential, Kane, a more obvious one. We're going back to an obvious one before ending with a perhaps not so obvious one. And that is the keeper we all sold. We all had Pope. We went to the World Cup and we thought we'll go for Kepa for less. Well, probably should have stayed on Pope.
We really should have. Really should have.
He mops up the bonus, as does Trippier. These two are just bonus point beasts. Didn't even make a huge amount of saves. 4 saves, that's all he needed because he gets the high pass completion. He also gets things like punches. Very, very good FPL asset, as we know. And I do think when we wildcard, we'll probably go back to Pope. I just don't think we're looking to wildcard at the moment. Or you go, I'm going to have double Newcastle defence a different way, which is something I'm looking at. You go Trippier and Botman with Almiron or Wilson.
Yeah, that's interesting. These BPS for sure. I'm slightly regretting the Kepa, but I've just got to remember like how much I saved out of doing it and like what else it's going to bring to the team. I think that's probably why I'll just end up sticking and hoping that Chelsea do turn around a little bit and keep some clean sheets.
Yeah. Pope and Trippier are 2 of the bonus point magnets in the Premier League. If you'd say name the 10 best for BPS, Pope, Trippier would be there. Haaland, KDB, Kane. There's a few. In years gone by, I say this with a heavy heart, as Palaqueta was the Don, but he's poor now as well. Let's move on to our fourth fixture. Fourth and final fixture, we've picked out, who do we go for? I can't remember. That was it, John Stones. Again, like 2.3% owned. He was Sky Sports player of the match, which doesn't always mean you get 3 bonus. In fact, it rarely does. But for once, the player of the match and the bonus point system matched up. But again, against Chelsea, he was phenomenal. Won all of his aerial duels, 104 touches. Like, the City centre-backs are so involved with the passing, and they don't just sideways pass either. You get some key passes out of centre-backs at Man City. And he cleaned up in the bonus.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I've never really contemplated all this season getting him in, but when you spell it out like that, there's massive potential there, isn't there? Especially, I mean, how do you think it's all fair once they have got Champions League back on the horizon? I mean, have they got the depth in the squad now to even rotate as much as they normally would have, or do you think John Stones will be okay?
It's a tough one because at the moment, Diaz is injured, so he's fine at that right centre-back spot.
Yeah.
Akanji can play it, but Akanji's also played left centre-back, which is also where Laporte and Aki play. So Stones for the right centre-back position feels just, it's his. And Diaz, when he comes back, will get some minutes. But Pep does this, doesn't he? He has his flavour of the month, and he has it with his wide forwards, and Mahrez is it at the moment, and Grealish is it, and Foden's out. He does it with centre-backs too, and Stones at the moment is just his go-to, his number one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah, and it's weird because at times, I remember at the end of last season, I think it was, Diaz, for example, couldn't get in the 11. And I was thinking, gosh, Diaz was the number one centre-back. And times, I think, again, early last season, I think it was, Laporte wasn't in the 11, yet Laporte was flavour of the month only 6 months ago. So he does do this, Pep. And Stones, after a bad game or two, could be out. But for the time being, yeah, he's absolutely nailed. And he's the Man City defender. If funds wasn't an issue, I'd be selling Cancelo for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We've got 20 minutes left of the show. Over 300 of you watching. That's really nice for a Monday night, of which we didn't, mid-game week, which we weren't expecting a huge amount of traffic. So thank you guys for the support. Please do hit that like button and subscribe if you're not already. What makes our shows, I think, really cool is you get the thoughts of, I hope, someone that knows what they're talking about when it comes to FPL and myself, but also you get Dean's take from an FPL perspective as an engaged FPL manager, but also Dean's take as a journo and a football insider. And it's transfers, Dean. It's your busiest times of the year, the summer and the winter windows. But that's when you come into your own and everyone's got questions for you, I know. So we should probably move on to our Transfernomics feature.
Yep.
I haven't seen that picture in a while.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, we're going to assess 3 transfer rumors tonight. The first one is, where else would we start? But Danny Ings to Crystal Palace, the one on everybody's lips. Look, Danny Ings has had a bit of a rough ride this season at Aston Villa. I think that people probably underestimating what the guy's capable of still, perhaps even his own manager at Aston Villa at the moment. But as part of that, he's been linked with transfers and he's linked with Crystal Palace, but I've gone with a mild rating on this one for the time being. I do think there's a possibility that Danny Ings leaves in this transfer window and moves to another Premier League club. I think that the big problem is how much he's going to cost, because Aston Villa are pretty much saying this guy's not going to be available on loan. And that means that we're going to be looking at a permanent transfer. I mean, he cost in excess of £25 million not that long ago when Aston Villa bought him. So realistically, to be buying him now, knowing that he cost that much like 18 months ago, knowing that he's one of the few players out there right now, potentially on the market, who has, number one, experience in the Premier League, but 2, also such a good goal scoring record in the Premier League. Like, players like that, really, really hard to find in this January market. And Crystal Palace, I don't believe, have that sort of money to be throwing around right now. So look, he's been linked with a lot of teams at the moment. Everton have been linked. Southampton have been linked too. It's an interesting one because I think that Danny Ings still has a lot to offer this season, and he showed that a little bit last time out in the league for Aston Villa, didn't he? Not sure he fits long term into what they want to do. Short term, I kind of feel like Villa should just keep him.
If he is up for grabs this January, all those in the relegation zone or in and around it will want Danny Ings. The teams that go down are always the teams that struggle to score goals, or they often are. So if you're an Everton or a Southampton, you'd be going. I mean, Palace feel like they'll be safe, but again, they'll want to improve the squad. Like you'd move mountains to try and get a player like a fit Danny Ings, I think. But will Villa let him go to a competitor in January? I mean, Villa don't feel like they're at risk of going down because of the manager, but they'll still see themselves as things could go wrong. But yeah, interesting that he's had links. Because he hasn't been at Villa that long. And back to St Mary's would be interesting.
Yeah, exactly that.
I mean, Southampton are
not sure not sure if he'd fancy joining Southampton at the moment under this manager. I'm not sure even I would want to play for them at the moment. That's the first one we wanted to assess. That's a mild one.
Like that.
Danny Ings to Crystal Palace. The other two a little bigger on everybody's radar. And let's start here with João Felix to Chelsea, which has really taken on a whole new lease of life today. This morning, it was still all about, will Arsenal come in for him? It seemed already that Man United had moved on from the idea of this because of the money involved in a loan deal for him. And now here we are. It's looking like he's doesn't join Chelsea, but he'll be joining them. A verbal agreement in place, according to David Ornstein. The Athletic is obviously a very good source. I checked it out a bit further and given this a hot rating because of the fact that this is clearly ongoing right now. And I found it quite interesting that I think it was David Ornstein's tweet actually that said Felix likes the project. And I was thinking, well, he's not really part of the project, is he? If he's a loan deal for 4 months or whatever. But then I thought, well, clearly then what's been spelled out to him is what Chelsea are trying to do here. Now, there isn't an option or an obligation for Chelsea to sign him, but it doesn't mean they won't or can't sign him. And that's what I think will be interesting here and will be part of almost a caveat to this will be like, if you do well, we like you and you like us, this can absolutely become a thing. And I think that this is almost like a trial period. Like Chelsea are already getting Christopher Nkunku in the summer. We know that they're also looking elsewhere. Marcus Thuram's still being linked, even knowing that they're going after João Felix right now. So this is a transfer that certainly looks like it will have legs temporarily. Possibly, though, I can see this coming out long-term too, even if there isn't that option in place. What I want to know from you, if João Felix does now join Chelsea, even this week, which is looking like it could happen, what value is he going to be in FPL? And knowing that his goal record is not great at Atletico Madrid. I mean, this season, as you can see there, 4 goals, 3 assists. Let's bear in mind when we're looking at that, he's only started 7 games, I think, in La Liga. He's been coming off the bench a lot. The last 2 league games he has started, and he's actually played quite well. But also, I think last season he only got 10 goals in La Liga. So knowing that he's not in the hottest form, how much do you reckon?
Oh, and will he be a midfielder or a forward? He should be a midfielder. Hakpo's a midfielder.
I wonder if he'll be listed as a forward. You know?
I think he'll come in as a forward. I think he'll come in as a forward because of the whole Chelsea need a forward. And I don't know.
I agree.
It's sometimes really random.
You can't beat him by him.
That is what Chelsea need. They need a number 9, but you'd take Felix if he's offered, I think. I think he'll come in Hakpo came in at 8 midfielder. I think Felix will come in as a 8.5 forward.
Yeah, and that won't be that tempting for me, I don't think. I don't feel like this is exactly what Chelsea have been missing. It obviously is a class player, and I really enjoy João Felix at his best. Last week against Elche, he played for Atletico Madrid. He was the best player on the pitch. Some of the things he was doing were absolutely absurd.
Why are they letting him go?
They were putting him in the shop window. I mean, it just hasn't worked out. It just hasn't been a good fit between the two of them. And ultimately, they need to recoup some money. So how I was told is they're playing him in these 2 games. Obviously, played Barcelona last night to show everybody what he can do. And I'm sure that scouts have watched that game and think, okay, we could sign you're basically here signing a £100 million footballer.
Yeah.
And you've got to pay a £10 million loan fee to have him for 4 or 5 months. And it could, for Chelsea, save their season or whatever.
It's a try before you buy as well, isn't it?
I think this really messes up Arsenal too. I really do. And I think maybe part of this might be why Chelsea have moved quickly here, because Arsenal have had their eye on him. It's almost like a backup with the Mudryk thing dragging on. They're like, well, João Felix, let's try and negotiate this. At the moment, it's a bit too high in the price. I was saying at the end of last week, Arsenal should probably just go for this. Why are clubs so happy to overpay on a permanent transfer?
Yeah, 72 million for Pepe.
Nicola Pepe, £72 million. But you won't pay an extra £3 million for a player that might win you the league over the next 4 months.
Yeah.
It's madness. But yeah, this is a hot transfer, one to watch. João Felix to Chelsea. I'm frustrated by it. I'm a Fulham fan. I was enjoying watching Chelsea be rubbish, and it might not be the
I
case
know
for much
you
longer.
were. I know you were. Felix as well might have been given assurances that he's in the 11. I wonder if he goes to Arsenal, if he spends too much time on the bench and he goes, what was the point in this? I could be on the Atleti bench. But I don't know.
I don't know where he fits in at Chelsea, though. Where will he play? Is it
Well, he'll
just
play
to
in
take
one of the. I don't know.
wide?
He can't play as the 9, surely.
I don't think
So
so.
it'll be in one of the 2 support positions, which is where we've seen Sterling and Pulisic or Ziyech.
Yeah,
I think he's going to go above all those players.
Yeah, I know Sterling and Pulisic are out for the next, however long, injured. But I don't know. I just when they're back, as far as I know, they're not going to be out for the season. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I wonder if him and Havertz could be a really nice front two, and that's what Atletico do have. Is they always have the striker with him, the number 9 with him, and people love playing with Morata, for example, because he's a great partner. And I think back to the likes of Tevez and Morata, and I think Felix and Morata was a combination that could and should have really worked. But I wonder if Felix and Havertz, because Havertz, I do think his best position is as a forward. I just don't know if we've seen him in the right system up front yet, because we always see with Chelsea just one number 9 and then 2 wide or inside forwards, but behind him.
Yeah,
Havertz and Felix in a front 2 could be really powerful. Really could be.
Yeah,
and then you've got Nkunku to come next summer. That could be the front 3 for Chelsea for the next 5 years.
Yeah, but
I don't know where Sterling fits in.
But yeah, absolutely. That's very true. Right, let's move on to our third and final transfer. Is a guy that Man United might be signing. They're looking into this one at the moment. I think it kind of landed on their doorstep, this one, from what I understand. I mean, Weghorst wasn't obviously available, still isn't obviously available. He's on loan at Besiktas from Burnley. United looking into the possibility of it. And look, I think it's a good profile fit. I think it's a really interesting addition to the squad if they manage to get it done, because he's got something that they don't currently have within their squad. And for that reason, I'm giving it a hot rating. I mean, they're definitely pursuing him, and he definitely would improve what they already have. The only doubt at the moment is whether Besiktas actually let this go ahead, because they need some incentive to actually let this happen. Yeah. And I think they're a little bit angry. I think it sounds like they are a bit like, hey, we're not just going to take this. We're not just going to accept that because Man United want this player to go back, that it can happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen. And
the fans love him, don't they?
Yeah, there was rumours of a clause that his loan deal could be terminated for £2 million or something. Besiktas have since come out today and denied that. They said that's not a clause that exists. At the moment, they're talking almost positively about him staying with them and saying, well, this isn't going to happen because it doesn't suit us. Now, what needs to happen here is that Besiktas basically need to be given a replacement of their own to take that is as good, because this guy's got, I think it's 9 goals so far this season. He's doing well for them. Yep. And equally, they need some money. They need some compensation to be letting go of a player who they actually don't want to lose. This is rarely ever seen that a player who's out on loan is suddenly in demand by one of the biggest clubs in the world.
I can't think of another example of it. It's bonkers.
I can't really think of a time when this specific scenario has cropped up. Obviously, there are similarities with United going after Arnautovic in the summer. It's not the most exciting name. I mean, there hasn't been the backlash to this one that there was with Arnautovic, and that's probably because he's possibly a better player. I think the interesting thing here too is the age profile. Man United don't have many players who are 30 or over anymore. They just don't. And I think that actually that experience in the front line probably needed. I mean, Martial is actually, I think he's only about 27, but he's one of the oldest players left in this squad because they just got rid of all the older ones. So in terms of outfield players, United lacking people with just a bit of people to add something extra. Choupo-Moting being mentioned by Mark in the comments. United not looking at Choupo-Moting at the moment. I know there's been rumours about that one, but they're not going after him. They're not going after Abubakar, like I know has been reported to in quite a few places. At the moment, this is the one they're looking into.
I get it. I think he had a great World Cup. He's been good for Besiktas. Yes, he only had 2 goals for Burnley in 20 or whatever it was.
He was great before he went to Burnley. That was a good signing. It just didn't turn out well.
And I think it was his debut. He played at Old Trafford. It was certainly one of his early games, and he was amazing in that game. I'm pretty sure I had him in my FPL team, or bought him off the back of that performance. But I like it. It's just the amount of examples I can think of since I've been watching football of Man United buying forwards on short-term deals or loans, sort of those that are 30 or over, like Falcao or Igalo or
They
Henrik
do it, yeah.
Larsson or Zlatan. They
100%.
do it a lot, and they often do it quite well. A lot of
Yeah.
those players I've just mentioned, Zlatan and Larsson, are success stories. Weghorst isn't in perhaps the same category as Falcao, but
in recent years, I think United probably would have just thrown money at João Felix, given him the number 7 shirt, and just tried to placate everyone by saying, look, we've got a star name through the door. And I think actually it might be a positive sign that they haven't done that, and that they're looking for a certain profile short term so they can get to the summer and then reassess and get through the actual number 9 that they're going to need and they're going to want. So I think if I was a United fan, I would be like kind of optimistic and confident about the way the club are being built.
Yeah, different style to what they've got as well. Like Martial's a very different type of footballer, and I like they've got that plan B option. Guys, we've only got 4 minutes left and so many questions, good questions about transfers. So we'll come to Dean with some very quick fire transfers questions. Loads asking about Depay. I can see Eddie's just asked about that a couple of times. Depay to Old Trafford, could we see it? I love Depay.
It's got more credence to it than some of the other names mentioned for sure. Like at the moment, Barcelona have not shown too much willing to like open up to it. Basically, I mean, Memphis is trying to figure out if he's staying at the club or if he's not. That situation needs to be cleared up. If Weghorst doesn't happen, if it falls through and it doesn't is not possible, then that will probably be one of the ones that they come back to see if they can get him out.
Is the Enzo deal off from CFC Blues?
I mean, at the moment, yeah, because the goalposts moved on both fronts. I'm not sure why Chelsea lowballed them in the way that they did. I think Benfica are frustrated and will now hold out for a lot of money up front, basically all of it, and then that's unlikely to happen. We'll have to see when we get to the back end of the window if Chelsea do have one more try at this. It wouldn't surprise me if they did. We know they've got money. We know they're willing to spend. And we know particularly in that area of the field, they are very light. So I think they're exploring other things at the moment just to see if even short term they can find somebody on like a 2-year contract who can just shore things up for the time being. But ultimately, that's not going to be the answer. And we've seen that their strategy is to sign players over the course of like 5 or 6 or 7 years or whatever Badiashile ended up getting. And, making sure that they're in a good place for the long term. So that's where Enzo Fernandez was supposed to fit in. It's a lot of money. I don't think he's worth over £100 million, if I'm totally honest. I think that's too much to be playing for a player in that area of the pitch. You don't get £100 million transfers for players of his type, and it's not usually necessary. And let's bear in mind too that Chelsea might be able to turn to Declan Rice in the summer and go and do that one.
Yeah. Mark, Chelsea have a strategy? ? Naughty.
They have Ahmed, 8 strategies that they're employing all at the same time.
Ahmed asks about Ings. I'll answer this one. I don't answer transfer questions, but why not Ings to United? And I think a few have maybe mentioned it. I don't know, a few reasons. They want someone to replace Martial when Martial's injured. So they want someone that's fit and ready on the bench. Ings, there's a good chance he won't be. And Danny Ings, I mean, look, most players of Ings's caliber would love a move to Old Trafford, but Ings was stung by that before. He went to Liverpool, couldn't get a look in. So I feel like Danny Ings will go somewhere where he knows he can play football. He's at the point in his career, he needs minutes.
Yeah, and also like the fact that Villa are hanging out for a permanent, I mean, United would have to pay, I'd guess somewhere between 15 and 20 million pounds for Danny Ings at the moment in this market. And it doesn't seem that they have that sort of money readily available.
Yeah, some great questions still, guys. Sorry we can't get to all of them, and we'll try and answer yours, Torben. That's Cedric, although... Go on, Dean. Do you want to answer the Cedric one?
I mean, there's still potential. Yeah, there's still potential there. Like Fulham looking at Cedric to come in. They are now looking at other backups though, because the move hasn't moved quite as quickly as they would have liked. But Arsenal, I think, open to him leaving if they can agree terms. So I wouldn't rule it out. Fulham have liked him for a very long time, and they would really like the player to come.
Cedric, a rubbish FPL question, but Trossard isn't. So I've got to ask you about Trossard because Luke, one of our regulars, asks it. Dean, do you see Trossard leaving Brighton this month? Because Tottenham heavily linked or have been for a while.
Newcastle really like Trossard as well. I mean, that's one that they've had bubbling under for a while now. I don't think this month it'll happen because Newcastle are primarily looking at a centre midfielder and a forward. look, Trossard, I'd be surprised if he left in this transfer window. I wouldn't be surprised if he left at the end of the season. But it's definitely, that is one to keep an eye on. I know that there have been some comments coming out of Brighton about him recently. So let's see how his situation evolves in the next 2 weeks.
Cool. Good stuff. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Dean, for all your transfer answers. And thanks for so many questions. You might know that Arsenal are about to kick off. You might want to tune into that now. In the cup, just looking at the team news, Saka and Nketiah, Martinelli do all start. No Odegaard in the 11. He is in the squad. He's fit. So Ben White and Odegaard, two popular FPL options, both on the bench. Smith Rowe also makes the bench tonight. Worth monitoring for Martinelli owners eventually, when those two could share some minutes later down the line. But Martinelli definitely first choice still.
Yeah, Arsenal are wearing the game started. They're wearing
all in white.
All white, including the numbers, so you can't actually see who's who.
I remember they did that last year. Was it something to do with the anti-knife crime shirt?
It is a campaign. I can't remember it, so I don't want to get it wrong. But yeah, it is a campaign shirt. But yeah, you actually cannot tell who is who. So good luck to any neutrals watching this one.
AC Milan wore numbers on their suits yesterday as they played Roma. They all rocked up to the ground with their new sponsor, their new kit supplier, suit supplier, and there was like numbers and names on the back of the suits. It was really weird. Yeah, it was really random.
I don't like that.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. We'll love you and leave you. We'll be back on Friday at 5 p.m. Before you leave, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you Friday, 5 p.m. for our second ever deadline stream. But for now, he's been Dean, I've been Janny, and we've been chasing green arrows.